come back this week with another question from one of our loyal readers. We love you all. We so long to answer your questions. We long to pour ourselves out for you. Thank you so much for sending them and also being patient with us as you're waiting for us to answer them in this form. We really, really appreciate it. So here goes with the next question. It says, do you ever have the concern that someone will hear you speak the same message topic more than once? Should that be a concern for me? And how do you approach that? That is such a great question, and my answer is both yes and no. My answer is yes, because I do think that it depends on how wide your audience is. Let me give you an example of a time that I really flubbed up. So I spoke at my church, and I spoke 2 different times. I've spoken 2 or 3 times at my church. The times that I spoke were separated by a couple of years, but I retold a story that second time that I had told the first time. And it's one of the stories that I love the most, and I probably tell with the most animation and things, so maybe it's kind of memorable. I did not remember that I had told it the first time, and I reused that story in another message. It wasn't until later when I was having lunch with a friend and she said, "Oh, I was so glad to hear your grilled cheese story again. That one's so funny." And I was mortified that I had actually retold it. I mean, it was nice that she liked it and encouraged me, but it was a little terrible that I retold it. So, one of the things that I have been doing is making sure I don't recycle stories in different messages. Yes, it's a great story. It might be one of my better stories, and so I like to tell it because audiences like it. But because I have done that once and I don't always remember exactly what I did at the previous event at that location, I've decided I'm not going to recycle stories, that each message will have different stories. So that's the no of do you recycle messages. But here's the yes. Should you recycle messages? Absolutely. As speakers, our role, I think, is pretty different than pastors. Pastors have a responsibility to bring something sort of fresh to their congregation each week. Now, if they move congregations, they may be recycling some of their messages, but for us as inspirational speakers, I think that we have a responsibility to really craft strong messages that will translate from one audience to the next. Now, still, I tweak mine depending on the age groups in the audience, who is there, what kinds of things has that group of women gone through recently, what kinds of things have I gone through recently. So I do significant rewriting almost every time I give messages, but I do reuse messages. So the answer to your question is yes, you can reuse messages carefully. So thank you so much for sending us your questions and waiting for us to answer them on this vlog. This week, or last week, I started giving you reasons that coaching is helpful. These are the things that we have heard from our clients. So last week I talked about having deadlines and having accountability. And here's my tip for this week. One of the powerful things about using a coach is that 2 heads are better than 1. It's not that I'm telling my clients from this great wealth of expertise, although I do have experience to draw from, but rather that I get to be my client's audience before they have to deliver a message in front of an audience. That means that there's someone outside of your head that gets to listen to your message before you give it. That's powerful because I can tell my clients, you know, I followed you from point A to point B, but you lost me on the way to point C. And then they can go back and clarify before they have to give that message to an audience. So another powerful reason that coaching is a great way to go for speakers. See you next week.